I'm really excited to be here to discuss the next wave of institutions on DeFi with my amazing panel. So please go ahead and introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit more about your company and what you're doing with Chainlink and how you're pushing forward DeFi. Let's start with Jan.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. Very glad to be back. It was SmartCon last year in August. Such amazing community. So Jan, CEO and co-founder of Autonomy. I'm a French national. Grew up in Marseille, went to grad school in Paris, but I essentially worked my whole career in the US, in New York, the past 18 years. And through different financial institutions in the capital markets, and I got into blockchain in 2017. And we started Autonomy 2 years ago with my two co-founders. Very excited about it. So what we do is an insurtech product for aviation and air freight, where we automate the claims, settlement, and event trigger using one of the most amazing technology, aka Chainlink, for our Oracle adapter. So that's kind of the real quick 45 seconds.
Nice plug. Thank you, Jan. Ricky, please tell us more about Nexus Mutual.
Hey, everyone. Ricky Tan. I'm head of business development partnerships at Nexus Mutual. Nexus Mutual is the largest decentralized insurance protocol on the Ethereum blockchain. Basically, what we do is we cover crypto assets against smart contract exploits, exchange hacks, and depegging risk. And currently, we're covering around $500 to $600 million worth of assets. And we mainly use Chainlink for pretty much all of our price feeds and pool data.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Akin.
Yeah, hi, I'm Akin Sawyer. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer of ONRAMP. ONRAMP is an integration platform as a service that provides access to RIAs to be able to access crypto, see their clients' portfolios that might be held away from them. And we also provide them with education and the tools they need to structure portfolios for their clients. So a big part of ONRAMP is essentially leveling up investment advisors with all the education and tools they need to be able to engage in fruitful conversations with their clients and help them structure portfolios that include crypto assets.
Thank you. And as DeFi expands, it's really important for users. Noah, please talk a little bit more about your company as well.
Hey, everybody. Noah Buxton. I'm an MD at Armanino, which is a large public accounting firm, top 25 by revenue in the US. Like Jan, I'm very excited to be back, year 2 of 2. So this is fun. And great developments over the year already. So Armanino is, again, a top 25 public accounting firm. I have the pleasure of leading our blockchain and digital asset practice today, which is a group of about 15 subject matter experts. And we do, frankly, a lot of different things we can get to on this call, but ultimately we support projects and crypto businesses in their accounting needs, things you might imagine: audit, tax, risk assurance, consulting, and accounting stuff. We also build new products for the space and are very proud of that. I think we're lucky enough today to be seen as a leader in digital assets and have done some world first stuff when it comes to assurance and audit for the crypto space. So glad to be with you guys.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for introducing yourselves. So each of you interact in different ways in the blockchain space, and I think it'd be great to have an open discussion. So we'll go ahead and start with a question that I'd love for you all to answer, or whoever wants to jump in. What are the biggest obstacles for traditional insurance providers and financial advisors to embrace DeFi and de-insurance markets and tools? What have you seen from each of your works?
I can jump in and start. So I think there are 2 core barriers. I'll say 3. I think the most important first is education, right? I think a lot of financial advisors have worked in a traditional financial marketplace that really hasn't changed that much. Like, honestly, in the last 100 years, right? They work with the same tech stacks, the same intermediaries, the same service providers. And up until recently, right, a lot of the narrative you're hearing in traditional markets about crypto is like, something you avoided. So I think education is really the core that we at ONRAMP lead with. And we're trying to really educate, advisors, to understand that a lot of their clients are holding assets away from them and accessing crypto, and potentially that's an existential threat to their business. But we also want them to really understand how these crypto platforms work, how crypto money markets function, how they're different, so that they can sort of meet their clients head to head and begin to engage with them on equal footing. And then I think the second big barrier is just access, right? Most financial advisors today have a pretty well-defined tech stack that they use to onboard clients, to manage portfolios. And they're not necessarily going to leave that tech stack to go subscribe to something new. So we are a platform as a service, and we want to integrate into the tech stacks that they're already using today to build portfolios and manage their portfolios. And so if you meet them where they are, and it's easy for them to access and acquire crypto for their clients, then they're more apt to do that. And I think the third leg is really regulation, right? And I think it's not that regulation isn't clear, because I think there's a lot more clarity than people understand. It's just that a lot of financial players are not really aware of what the new regulations are and how they actually navigate the space. So part of our job is to educate them to really understand, how do you provide access to your clients in a compliant way? How do you think about accounting and how that affects taxes, right? All those things they need to know to feel confident that it can provide access and manage crypto portfolios along with traditional assets. So I think, from our perspective, those are the core three areas that, kind of still present a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, thank you for summarizing that. And Jan, it looked like you might have something you wanted to add in there.
Yeah, you stole my thunder. I think you kind of hit many of the points I wanted to hit. I wanted to add a little bit of the, 2 points. One of them is there's still some confusion from most of the incumbents in insurance or even banks between cryptos and blockchain. When we talk about our automation to a smart contract, some people might say, well, is that going to be a Bitcoin payment on the back end? And people get very shaky about it. So education, as you said, again, I think, this is very much key when people understand that, using blockchain for improvement of supply chain logistics and clarity in terms of the execution of terms, as opposed to the speculative aspect of crypto that they're not necessarily a big fan of, right? And the second thing is, more around getting them comfort that, robotizing or automating the process is not going to result into firing dozens of thousands of their employees. It's more towards, creating partnership and trust, where we're automating a lot of the mundane tasks that needs to be automated, but that gives them leeway to actually focus on more complex issues for their customers. So at the end of the day, this is actually a value add along the value chain for incumbents, clients, and us.
Definitely, thank you. And you touched on it a little bit, Akin. Does anybody here feel like regulation is good, bad? How are we feeling about it? It's a hot topic right now, and DeFi is at the front of this conversation. So I don't know if maybe Ricky or Noah, you have any thoughts on this?
Obviously today is especially a hot topic, but I think if you want to tap into, the more traditional partnerships, such as we've been exploring with your TradFi insurance players, then obviously regulation is something the industry has to solve for in the end. Of course, my personal opinion is, as many people in the blockchain space, is what we're seeing right now is kind of this knee-jerk reaction to the most conservative side. But if we basically want to scale this, 10, 100x bigger that everybody's always talking about, then there needs to be a regulatory framework, and not only in the US, but kind of globally, through which, we can provide this technology to your traditional capital providers.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think Akin made a good point too, that in some ways, the regulatory frameworks are shifting and evolving and a little bit uncertain, but actually a lot of players in the space do have relative levels of certainty. You can think about sort of the centralized exchanges or money transmitters, right? Like the AML KYC is an evolving picture, but they basically know that they need to follow these rules, and the audit frameworks and licensure is in place. you've got, the tax landscape is moving, but ultimately, IRS, at least in the US, has said crypto is property, and that makes it pretty clear that you're talking about capital gain implication. There's lots of problems with how do you deal with all the data, and do we have the right tools, and can you effectively get to these gain loss answers? But ultimately, that's the treatment. I think what we're seeing today in the US from a US perspective is definitely concerning, right? What we need is sort of this holistic framework. Again, issuers today, if you're issuing a token, let's say that, represents ownership in a fund, you're issuing a security, right, under US securities law. And I think most issuers are pretty comfortable with that. They know that they're sort of issuing, ownership stake in a fund in just a different way, right? It's a digital wrapper around that ownership, but ultimately an underlying security. So we need this, we need frameworks, we need more clarity. And what's happening right now, sort of tacking legislation into was a heavy rolling snowball, right at the last second, hoping that it rolls down, keeps rolling downhill is not good, because there's not enough period for open comment, industry participation, things like that. So working with industry groups, I'll give a plug to the Digital Chamber of Commerce. If you all don't work with the Chamber of Digital Commerce, definitely seek them out. They have fantastic working groups. They're right on the edge. They have the ear of legislators. So that is a great place to get involved if you want to, have a meaningful participation and input in this landscape.
Yeah, it's definitely an important time right now to have that conversation. So thank you. And how are each of you seeing businesses assessing investment risk and counterparty risk in digital assets today?
Well, in terms of so one of our products is that we self-cover, so basically decentralized insurance for custody hacks, and especially with the attention on, some of the centralized lenders. I'm not going to name names, but everybody knows the big players in the space. As they've accumulated more and more assets, that basically meant that crypto is not something, that the average retail person has a couple $1,000s in, but this is an asset now where hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars are deployed to basically generate additional yield, including for some, called edge finance investors. And we're just seeing that demand in terms of insurance cover sales and that. So from that perspective, counterparty risk, and by extension also smart contract risk, is becoming a much bigger issue, or not issue, but topic in the space. And I think it's good because it does increase the awareness that, you should do some diligence before you deploy your funds into, project A, B, or C that's promising 5 to 10% additional yield.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll add to that as well. I think, there has to be a slow shift in how people think about what risk is. And I think oftentimes the risks in DeFi are a little bit different than a traditional space, where in most transactions, you're dealing with a legal counterparty, right? Someone that has, right, a book of business, they have financial assets, right? You can lay claim to those assets. And oftentimes in DeFi, you're interacting with a protocol, right? And as Ricky said, understanding the mechanisms of how these protocols function, the fact that lots of money markets are over collateralized, and right, you need to see how they perform in various market conditions and look at the data, which is readily available if you know where to look. It changes the nature of what the risks are. And so perhaps the risks are less about the counterparty, but more around how does a protocol function? How do you understand the mechanisms in which it works? And is it functioning over time as it's supposed to? And then you also have to focus then on, really smart contract risk and how to quantify that and potentially, get cover for smart contract risk, through platforms like Nexus or other parties for providing insurance. So I think the key is really just, I think the term counterparty and what the risks are quite different. And so for traditional players, really understanding how the nature of risk assessment has to shift such that you can make, better risk-adjusted investments becomes really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a good framework for thinking about it. There's sort of this traditional approach to risk assurance in capital markets, and it includes security questionnaires, audit requirements and things like that. these are all the traditional layers. And I think some of this eventually needs to come to crypto, and it needs to come to the DeFi space eventually in some form. But as Akin says, it's going to be different. It's going to be the same in its spirit, right? But it's going to be different in its character and its implementation. So, one thing that we've been working on is proof of reserves, and trying to create more standards around proof of reserves. That's traditionally in the centralized counterparty or centralized exchange type of counterparty, assessing risk of another party holding your crypto for you. That's hard to do today, right? You can ask for a SOC 2, but that doesn't necessarily include the types of controls that would necessarily give you really good comfort over reserve assets. You extend those sort of ideas to DeFi, and they get even more difficult. Like, theoretically, everything's on chain, everyone can see it, but then you have these user experience or user interface type problems where, yeah, the information is there, but how do you bring it together and make it more, more usable for someone to assess risk? So there's a lot more to say there, but it's just about different tools, and I think that's some of the stuff we're trying to solve for.
And on the topic of counterparty risk, do you feel like institutions are ready to let go of legal counterparty risk management, or is it still used as a backup, or maybe the smart contract is the backup? Any opinions on that?
It's so fact dependent. I hate to give that "it depends" type legal answer, but it really does depend. I get to see a lot of different things at the firm. We have business management office that represents high net worth and celebrity individuals. We've got an investment arm, that helps investors, is a registered investment advisor, and then we represent corporates. And because we represent corporates, co-founders of token projects and things like that, it just all is fact dependent. So I do see family offices being able to be more nimble, right? They're ultimately placing their own capital or maybe a limited set of investors. And so they're much more nimble in their risk assessment. They can stick their neck out a little further. They're ultimately flatter organizations. As you get into funds, where you have more fiduciary sort of guardrails or bindings, you could say, those asset managers have to move much more slowly, and may even need sort of new vehicles, right? You've got to sort of stand up a new offering, right? It can't be just simply tacked on to an existing investment. So very hard question to answer, all fact dependent. Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I wanted to add that I think on the insurance side, where that's where I'm currently implementing our solution. People view smart contract as an ideal tech for operation automation and also automatic triggering settlements. I don't think they have the maturity intellectually to say that this is a legal entity that can trust on its own. It's not that autonomous in terms of the path to a maturity of the blockchain space yet with incumbents. So that's why we want to kind of concentrate into being excellent at operating those financial assets. And then the counterparty risk, which is going to be more kind of protocol / digital counterparty, as Akin was saying, is going to be kind of coming down the road as more independent tracking of the risk and management of those new risks, so to speak.
Yeah, and I'll add quickly to that. I think some of what we're doing is, as much as possible, right? An entity like ONRAMP is the trusted advisor, right? And so part of our responsibility is really not just in providing education, but also filtering, right? So thinking about what kinds of DeFi protocols do we interact with and products do we bring to our clients, right? It becomes a responsibility for ourselves to really know what we're doing, right? To filter through what the risks might be and present that to our clients. But then there are also just other aspects of, right? In today, for example, a big area for advisors is they get our errors and omissions insurance, right? Which covers mistakes they might make, right? And that doesn't quite, so figuring out what's the E&O for crypto, right? What kinds of new insurance products should we be looking into that provides the same level of assurance, right? That advisors get in traditional markets in the DeFi space that might cover mistakes that potentially either them or intermediaries are working with might make, So I think there's a lot of room for innovation in just understanding, how traditional users of different stripes think about risk and what the requirements might be, what their fiduciary requirements might be. And then going back to the drawing board in some instances and thinking about, who do you engage in terms of an insurance issuer that would cover certain kinds of risks in DeFi that seem at least similar to the kinds of risk coverage that advisors have in traditional space. So those are some of the things we're grappling with and trying to kind of solve such that it just answers a new question, like it kind of checks the box on questions that advisors have to make them comfortable.
Right. And on that topic of advisors, maybe Akin, you'd be the best to answer, but is there advisor insurance for crypto advising yet? And if anyone else wants to jump in.
Well, yes and no, right? So I think some of these, there's some insurance products that already cover, so as an advisor, right, a lot of the insurance used today kind of applies, right? But I think the key is when you start interacting with DeFi smart contracts, for example, and essentially we're providing those types of products where there's smart contract risks, there are new risks that are being brought to the table. Perhaps you need to sort of re-engage with your insurance providers or find new insurance providers that provide those new coverages, which, don't really, pass the bar with your current insurance coverage. So I think there's just a lot of room for innovation in the insurance space, to be frank, that begins to just think more intently about how to, one, determine what the insurance risks, determine what the risks are, or the new risks you're exposed to in DeFi, and then crafting new insurance products. So I think the short answer is there's not enough, and there's a lot of room for just new ideas around insurance that covers traditional users.
Yeah, it sounds like we just invented a new insurance product. So exciting stuff. Okay, as we close out, we have a few more minutes. I'd love to hear from each of you as to what you're excited about as you move into 2022 in DeFi, anything we should look forward to with each of your companies. Jan, why don't you go ahead and share with us?
Yeah, so thanks for this opportunity. So we're currently running a beta program, which is going commercial throughout the summer. And we also, so very excited about it with a few insurance partners on distribution capacity and also, operating the policies. Now, what we're very excited about is an opportunity to engage with the Bermuda Monetary Authority, with whom we want to essentially get sandboxed into their blockchain/insurance track. And there, it's actually like a very exciting project about, DeFi plus insurance premium yield pickup, where we'll be combining, both the traditional underwriting of the air freight risk that we currently underwriting, combined with some pickup with DeFi, and essentially having decentralized risk management, which is essentially the end game that we want to reach.
That's really exciting. Thank you. And Ricky, we'd love to hear from you as well.
It's just connecting to what Akin actually just mentioned. Like the space moves so fast. We launched 3 new, it's called crypto insurance products in the last 12 months. But they're already not outdated, but there's already a need for updated or newer ones. So it's such a fast pace. So we're just like rolling out newer products or updated products in the next 6 months. And then in addition to that, we're upgrading our insurance protocol to a newer version that will just be more capital efficient, which I think is just going to be a broader team in 21 DeFi. So. Yeah,
we're looking forward to that. But I agree. I feel like I can't catch up. So we'll just have to see what happens next. And Noah, please share more about Armanino as well.
See how fast I can go here in less than a minute. Armanino developed Trust Explorer, which is the world's first real-time audit platform. Today, it provides real-time attests for crypto instruments that total about $5 billion in value between coin shares and the true USD and true currency assets. We opened a door, an API endpoint to provide that collateral information or proof of that reserve to on-chain environments through Chainlink. We're super proud of being the first to do that. It's a first non-price proof of reserve feed. We're now also vertically integrated and actually operating as an Oracle on the network, and very excited to be doing that, and just want to add more feeds and get more involved in proof of reserves and support more projects in the community.
That's huge news. Thank you. I wish we had more time to chat. We are all out of time, but thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Please follow all of our panelists on social media and enjoy the conference.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Zaji, as well, for leading this panel. Appreciate having everybody on, seeing many of you again who I've talked to in the past.